down.
I wish to admit to a further approx 9 killings.
It was something that just seemed to be beyond belief.
9 killings.
Completely unexpected, out of the blue.
Expressly, Charmaine, Rena,
Beyond my personal experience,
Linda Goff,
and I suspect that of many other police officers.
and others to be identified.
I even questioned whether, personally, I was capable of handling this.
F.
Officers in Gloucester searching 25 Cromwell Street have today discovered what they believe to be another set of human remains.
Everybody wanted to know what was going on.
Christened the Angel of Cromwell Street, Hilary Allison became the voice of the police investigation. But with global press interest growing by the second, Hilary had her hands full.
My recollection is walking out to give a briefing and suddenly having cameras flashing all over the place, questions being asked of you, microphones thrust in your face. And what we had to try and do was manage that and say, come on folks, be reasonable. Questions one at a time. We will read a statement out for you. We will do some interviews with you individually afterwards if you want it. But please, can you just back?
I'd come down Cromwell Street and the place looked like, I don't know, it looked like a football match with Japanese photographers, and at one occasion the police had barriers up and they sort of burst through at one occasion. It was almost crushed against the wall. It was a bit off-putting when you're just trying to go to work.
We had a number of calls from reporters all over the country, national and local, saying, well, we've now heard it's going to be 32 bodies, it's going to be 69 bodies. We've heard that Fred West has fathered 32 children. All sorts of things were being put to us. Now, of course, all we could say at that stage was, look, this is pure speculation. No one has mentioned those figures. As soon as we get any information, we'll give it to you. But we certainly can't get into the business of speculating.
Whatever the press imagined, the police now knew there were 12 victims. 3 had been identified: Heather, Shirley Robinson, and now Alison Chambers, who Fred had wrongly claimed was Shirley's mate.
I wish to admit.
Fred had also confessed to a further 9 murders, including his first wife, Rena Costello, and her daughter, Charmaine. But where were Lucy Partington and Linda Goff? Were they buried in the cellar or hidden in the walls of 25 Cromwell Street? And if they were, how could Fred's wife Rose not know about the murders? Fred West had confessed to the murder of 12 young women, but the horror was not confined to West's home in Cromwell Street. Fred told the police there were other bodies in other places. He led them to Muchmarcle near Gloucester, the tiny rural village where he grew up.
This field's known locally as Letterbox Field. When we brought him out here, hoping that he could identify the location where he buried the body. We were very fortunate that within 4 days of starting excavations here, we did recover human remains. And those were subsequently identified as being of Rena Costello, Fred's first wife. Now, she hadn't been seen since 1971, so the body had been in the ground for more than 20 years.
But there was something else, something detectives hadn't bargained for. Fred revealed that lying close by was another body, Rena's friend, Anne McFall, who, like Shirley Robinson, had also been pregnant with his child.
At the time that we believe the body was buried, the field was completely different. There was a small pond down there, and more than that, the farmer had told us that he'd added about 8 or 9 feet of soil above the original level. We spent 2 months here, digging out a huge amount of ground. In fact, the hole was the size of an Olympic-sized swimming pool. We'd done all this work, and we were almost on the point of closing the operation down when we finally discovered the remains. The recovery of the remains of Anne McFall was rather poignant here because we believe that she was probably the first victim of Fred West, and she was the last one to be found.
Inside West's home at Cromwell Street, the police search was also reaching a conclusion. Inch by inch, they'd stripped the house bare. 5 more unknown victims had been painstakingly exhumed from the basement, and in the bathroom, they finally found the remains of Linda Gough. Cromwell Street was empty at last. With nothing left to find, and the media demanding information, the next task for the police was to identify the victims. This onerous task lay in one man's hands. Professor Whittaker was making progress with a skull from the cellar, with a distinctive clue to its identity.
This girl must have had some damage to her 2 front teeth. They had crowns on them. These crowns were temporary crowns. Now, to a dentist, this means she had an accident probably. She had the work done to make new crowns. She had temporary ones put on, and she died and was unable to go back for that fitting.
The precision of Whittaker's observations led a police colleague to ask him an unlikely question. She remembered an incident from a hockey match many years before, when a local girl had her teeth knocked out, and she asked if it could be the same girl.
We had, 10,000 missing girls in Britain. They were in the frame. And a woman police detective says, "Do you think it could be this girl who was playing hockey?" And of course the answer has to be, it's incredibly unlikely, but we ought to check it out. The team was put on to sort this out, and it turned out to be her.
I realised that Lucy wouldn't be dead if she hadn't been a female and if she hadn't been collided in this most extraordinary and incomprehensible way with the world of the West that was the complete opposite of her life.
The girl who'd once played hockey was Lucy Partington. After 20 years of waiting, Marion could lay her sister to rest. She asked the police if she could see Lucy's remains.
I just walked forward and took the lid off, and there it was, and there was something about the shape of it that was just immediately I knew that it was Lucy's skull. It was just like the shape of this dome. I told my mum what we were going to do, and I said, "Is there anything you'd like me to put in with Lucy's bones?" And she gave me these 2 old toys of Lucy's that she'd always kept, that we played with as children, completely beaten up old straw stuffed lion that was called Chocker, and another one that was called Bunny, who was dressed up in his smart velvet trousers. We put Chocker and Bunny in either side of her skull and wrapped it all up. You know, it was like tucking up what was left. It really helped to make it real.
I'd been away from the West's house for about a month, and then on December the 6th, I was hitchhiking back from Tewkesbury again, in exactly the same spot that they'd picked me up 5 weeks earlier. When they pulled up, they were both sat in the front, and Rose opened the window, the passenger side, and was all smiling. And then she said, "Oh, Carol, I'm so glad to see you. I'm really sorry about what happened." And then Fred leaned across, and he was all smiling and said, "I'm really sorry, Karen. Didn't mean to upset you like that. I was only joking." And then they were like talking and saying, "Oh, the kids really missed you, and we really missed you." And I kind of felt like, even though I didn't want to get in the car, I kind of felt like they were being so nice that I had to.
Come on. Okay, thanks. You sit in the back, Fred. Have a chat with Carolyn.
About 2 miles into that journey, Fred looked at me in the rearview mirror and asked me if I'd had sex, and I just had this